Good evening. Hi, Joan. It's lovely chatting to you. Thank you very much for taking the time for this interview. Um, I'm Sue Ellam, and I'm the founder of Soulfully Connecting. And Joan Jacobs is one of our very valued authors and an emotional healer. And I want to take this opportunity of letting Joan tell you about herself and her work. So, Joan, it's over to you. Can you tell me, who are you? Who is Joan Jacobs?
Okay, I just want to say good evening, Sue. I'm, very happy to do this interview. Hello to all the viewers, listeners. I'm Joan Jacobs. I'm an emotional healing specialist. I have 30 years experience in both individual and group healing. I lecture at the Faculty of Health Sciences at the Ben-Gurion University in Israel. And I'm also founder of the Unleashing the Healthy Self online program, where I help people from all over the world to achieve emotional, mental, and physical health. Throughout the 30 years that I've been in practice, I've written 3 books. One is Messages from the Soul, a holistic approach to healing. The second is 10 critical questions your doctor is probably not going to ask you. And the third is Beyond Doubt, the 3-step formula to creating unbeatable self-esteem. I'm also a former radio host. I had a radio show on voiceamerica.com called The Light Within, Awakening the Inner Healer.
You've certainly done quite a bit.
I've been busy, yes. I like myself busy.
Yes, I'm just glad you could spare the time. Okay, so we know what you do, but if somebody comes to you for healing, for instance, and is a new client, how would you proceed with them, whether they be online or in person?
Well, there are 2 types of people that usually come to me. One is people suffering from physical health conditions, mainly chronic conditions, and people recovering from life-threatening diseases. And the other category is people who are having typical emotional issues, be it different types of crisis situations or chronic situations like low self-esteem, lack of assertiveness, anger, anxiety, depression, things that are really typically emotional. The first thing I do is do a thorough intake, because the most important thing is to establish a strong connection between the emotional, mental, personality-related themes and the health condition. My belief and clinical experience is that there is no such thing as a chronic condition without a strong emotional component. But with that, people go through all kinds of things, and in order for me to assess the situation, if I'm really the right person to help the client, I first have to understand myself. I have to look for the links and map out the person's physical and emotional story, so that I can be sure, that that's the right direction to take.
Okay, it's interesting. Okay, so why do you do what you do? What's your motivation?
Well, besides the fact that I love what I do, there is a story behind it. When I was 16, I developed very severe psoriasis. And for people who don't know what psoriasis is, it's a skin condition that creates very ugly red and scaly lesions all over the body. And I really had them from top to bottom. And I was told by the medical doctors that I'll just have to learn to live with that, because there's no cure. Now, you figure I was 16, real teenager age, and all you really care about at that age is your looks. And here I am, I'm just covered with these lesions. And although I wasn't aware of the fact at the time, but, I said, no way. And I vowed that I would find a solution. I had a very strong belief that it couldn't be that there is no solution for this. Part of that may have been connected to the fact that I grew up in a medical family. My dad was a gastroenterologist, my mom was a registered nurse, and I grew up with this notion, the doctors know everything and they can solve everything. So that notion in itself sort of exploded in my face, but it did somehow plant the seed that there are solutions to things. Even if they don't know what they are, then there must be a solution out there. And I set out to find help for myself, basically. And to make a long story short, I did. I resolved my psoriasis, but in order to do that, I had to face many, many very negative beliefs I had about myself, about life, about the world. I had very toxic emotions that I was carrying. And when it worked for me, it was very clear to me that that was going to be my life mission, getting the knowledge, the insights, the tools, the experience out to as many people as possible worldwide, and help as many people as possible stop suffering, because that's what happened to me.
I suppose you have to really understand people's belief systems as well.
I didn't understand the question. You weren't clear?
Yeah, it went funny. I suppose that you have got to overcome people's belief systems as well, because people have been brought up with it's kind of a one way of healing, and though the alternative healing is as old as time, it's not the norm these days. So how do you do people have their own preconceived ideas when they come to you, how you're going to work? Are there doctors that you can work with who are from the traditional ways, or is it like two separate paths?
Well, practically speaking, it usually is two separate parts. Very rarely do I actually work in conjunction with the medical doctors. And it's probably like that because medical doctors usually don't understand my language. In fact, I understand their language more than they understand my language. And, nobody likes to feel like they're in this place where they don't know. So usually it's separate. There are different sets of beliefs. First of all, people have a lot of beliefs about medical treatment, about healing, about health. And the work that I do really introduces a totally new paradigm, a paradigm that's focused on health and not on disease, a paradigm that works from the inside out and not from the outside in. And some people have a hard time, or they don't reach this kind of therapy just because they believe that the right way to resolve health issues is through the medical establishment. Now, often the best option is a combination. It's not an either-or situation necessarily. And then if you get through that and people do come, they definitely have a lot of beliefs that are undermining their health, whether they're aware of them or not, because we do create results that are aligned with our beliefs. And I have a great example for that because, by the time I started finding therapists, alternative therapists to work with, I had really integrated this statement that psoriasis has no cure. You can't cure psoriasis. I just heard that so much. And when you're exposed to something enough, your subconscious mind takes it in without filtering it. And when I started therapy, all of a sudden I realized that had become my own belief, and it was a real obstacle to healing, and I had to deal with that. And I also was full of again, this notion, the doctors know everything, that the medical establishment is the ones to turn to. And it took me quite a while till I could really let go of that and, really be there in the emotional therapy and trust it and take it all the way. So, I'm familiar with that, of having beliefs that you believe in very strongly. You have a lot of so-called proof, that they're correct and how hard it is to let go of that. But yes, my clients have to deal with their beliefs. They have to deal with their negative emotions. You know, they really have to look the tiger in the eye. And I always, you know, explain that in this initial intake so people know what to expect. And there's something about the combination of techniques that I use that really connect people inward to what really hurts very fast. And, you know, that's an advantage, but it also, you know, can be difficult for people. But you hit it on the dot and you get it moving, and that's the reason why my type of therapy also creates results much faster than other emotional type healing, let's say psychology and, you know, other kinds of talk therapy. I also address things at the core source level of the energy system. I use Bach flowers, which are homeopathic based flower essences. So to be honest, my clients work. I mean, it's not a dilly-dally thing, but they also get results. So, you know, I felt that working was very rewarding because I got results. So I hope that they see it the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. It must be quite frightening, actually, when you've come from a belief system that things happen to you and it's not really your fault, and it's not a blame culture, but sometimes things from childhood can trigger, and you get to one layer of a healing and you think, and then another button is pushed, there's another layer. So it's quite frightening having to look at sometimes things you prefer to have buried. So it's good that it's a relatively fast process, because a lot of people really wouldn't want it long drawn out, would they?
I often think about that, and I found it very liberating to identify the things inside me that were limiting me, that were undermining my health. The realization that I can create my own reality, for better and for worse, was extremely liberating. It was a huge revelation for me, because all of a sudden I realized that I could be the manager of my life. And I thought that was just the greatest idea I had ever heard. And even though it sometimes involves, you know, facing things that are painful, or facing things that you regret, or facing your mistakes, my attitude was always that if I make the mistakes, then I'll deal with it and I'll learn how to improve it. But anything that's out of my control is out of my control. That makes me totally helpless. And I personally don't like to be helpless. So, you know, it's also a matter of how you deliver it, because I think that, you know, facing your dragons is fantastic. I mean, it's a great thing. It's liberating. It's going to take you forward. And I think that that's how I deliver it, which gives my clients a lot of confidence to go through it, because I'm very, very secure and confident that this is the right way. And I have learned from things that clients have said to me that I somehow convey that, which I'm very happy to know, you know, but there's no question that you can't do anything. You can't influence your life. You can't affect anything that's happening to you as long as you're in the victim chair.
Yeah, I totally.
And you know, this of course is part of this new paradigm where, you know, after years where nobody told us that we could actually be the creators of our reality, I think one of the biggest awakenings that's going on is more and more people are realizing the huge influence they have on their realities, on their health condition, on their relationships, on their financial reality, on everything, anything that's in their life. And that's huge, you know, it's just really, really exciting. All of a sudden you get this power that you had no idea you had. So to me, it's
yeah,
fabulous.
It's just a freedom. It's like being a child again, isn't it? And handing it over and said, well, I expect this for Christmas, and you know you're going to get it. And it's that kind of, it's just kind of confidence, isn't it? And it takes practice. It takes a while to get to that point, especially if you've been brought up with in a deficit belief. You know, it takes a few mental gymnastics, but once you know it works, then you can just grasp it and just run with it.
Yes.
It's exciting work. So what are the main challenges that you find you face within your work?
Well, there are many different types of challenges. Every client challenges me in a unique way, but I think when I zoom out and look at the big picture, I think my biggest challenge is wanting to help people sometimes more than they want to be helped. You know, I feel like I have this huge gift to give people, and I get up every morning and, you know, I want to heal, I want to help, I want to stop suffering as much as possible. And as we, you know, just discussed, not everybody is there, not everybody is ready for it in terms of consciousness. The timing can be off. You know, everybody has to find the right time and the right combination of circumstances for this type of awakening. And, you know, sometimes I see people that I know I can help, and they don't want my help. And that can be very frustrating. But, you know, given that I've been in this for 30 years, I've learned how to deal with that. And I have a lot of compassion and respect for people, because I know that if the process is done at the wrong time, it won't be as effective. So, you know, that was a lesson of mine that I had to learn in my process of growing professionally and personally. But it is frustrating sometimes.
So what's your greatest joy with your work? I can tell you love it.
Oh, yes. And I can't imagine anything more gratifying, you know, than helping people go from suffering and pain and hopelessness and failure and lack of purpose to a state of health and happiness and self-realization. It brings me tremendous joy and satisfaction and inspiration. You know, there's always a give and take. I learn a lot from my clients. Also, every client brings something for the therapist, and I feel very blessed to be able to help people in that way. I feel very blessed for being so clear about my destiny and, you know, loving what I do. And I really put my whole heart into every client. My clients will testify. But it's work that is very, very gratifying. Very.
It's wonderful when you find your life purpose, isn't it? There's just a
Yes.
sense of being at home. I mean, it's very challenging, and you'll continue out of your comfort zone, but it's so rewarding. You just can't go back, can you?
No. No, I've had people ask me things like, boy, you get up every morning and all you do is listen to other people's problems. I mean, doesn't that wear off on you somewhere? And, you know, it doesn't. It just doesn't, because I'm so focused on listening and in my listening, looking for the things that I can use to take them forward, to release it. I don't experience it in that way at all. And I guess for someone who doesn't, you know, experience it that way, it can seem like a real gloomy kind of work, but it's not at all.
Yeah.
You know, when people come and they're in pain and you know how to get them out of there, is very, very inspiring. Or I find it very inspiring.
Yeah, it's obviously your path, and it's just as well. I must mention your course, because Joan is very kindly is going to be sharing her course on Soulfully Connecting, and it will be very shortly featured in Soulfully Connecting Plus. The website is www.soulfully-connecting.com. connecting.com, and you'll find Joan, a lot of her articles, really interesting things to read. So I suggest you pop along and have a look at those. But anyway, Joan, please, can you tell us a bit about this course of yours?
Yes, the program is designed for people with health issues, chronic health issues, or any other big life challenges. And what we do in the program is I actually teach people how to interpret the physical symptoms and draw the inner issues that need to be addressed out of this very specific type of interpretation. And I teach them how to manage what's going on inside them intentionally and consciously, resourcefully, and so it creates health. So we go through the whole process. We learn how to interpret and analyze the physical condition. We learn the symbology behind physical symptoms and how to relate them to specific events, emotionally charged events in their lives. Then we look at the belief system and how to manage what's going on in the mind, so that you make sure that your mind is working to support healing and to support health. Then we go into the emotional world, and you mentioned earlier, emotional blueprint and all kinds of emotions that got stuck early in life and how they affect us today and how to release those emotions so we can move on. And finally, how you take all of that together and put it into what you would call like a plan of action, so that you can really transform what's going on inside you using a very structured and organized method, which you can always duplicate on other people or on other health conditions.
That sounds fascinating. How long roughly does it take for someone to complete this course? How many modules?
Well, the course has 10 pre-recorded sessions, and there are a few options. There's one option where you can also get individual Skype sessions with me. And then there's one option where you have written assignments that you could send to me by email and get personal feedback. And then there's one option where, all you have is the trainings. So the first option includes all avenues. There's the pre-recorded trainings, there's the email support, and there's the individual Skype consultations. Then there's the, trainings just with email support, and then there's just the trainings for people who, want to listen to the trainings and do the work. That's fine too. There's that option also.
Oh.
So, different people can purchase different degrees of support according to their needs.
Yeah. That's very it's good. All sides covered. Also, just to let you know that Soulfully Connecting is putting out a newsletter every month. As it can become more frequent. But Joan is going to be answering any questions. So all you have to do is actually sign on the news and offers on the Soulfully Connecting website, and then you'll get a copy of the newsletter. You won't get inundated with loads of emails. Just a newsletter or special offers that come up in between. But Joan will be available to answer your questions via the newsletter as well. So she is available from that point of view as well. That is fantastic. It's been a great interview. Really nice talking to you, Joan. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
Well, I think the most important message I'd like to get across is that I have yet to see a physical health condition without an emotional component. And addressing the emotional component can change the healing process around 180 degrees. And more than that, I've had clients that it has literally saved their lives. So whether you're familiar with this type of healing or not, I warmly suggest that you explore, read about it, expose yourself to it, because it just may be what will make the difference in your health condition.
It's a very good point to make. And from my years of exploring all this sort of thing, I totally believe that as well. You know, so heal the emotions, and you're way on the way to healing anything else. So it's very pertinent. Joan, thank you so much. And well, that's signing off from Joan and signing off from me. And thank you very much for joining us. Bye for now.
Bye for now.